Hello everyone. A very good evening. Bhaskar this side. I hope you guys are doing good. So just quickly confirm if you can hear me and you can see my screen as well. Okay, thank you, Ashwini. So let's wait for few minutes so that's can join and we're going to start with today's session. Okay guys, so let's start with today's session. So first of all, let's revise what we have learned in yesterday's session. So we have started with what is edge locations, what are the point of presences, what is the edge location, what is regional edge caches. Then we have moved to what are the different categories of AWS services, the service categories, and inside the service category, what are different kind of services are there, and which categories will be focusing on for this particular course, and which services are the part of those categories which we are going to learn. And then we started with new module that is AWS Cloud Security. And inside this module, till now we have completed the first section where I've told you what is AWS shared security, shared responsibility model, which speaks about the security inside the cloud, the responsibility between the customer and AWS. So we have also done the activity, and then I have just introduced you to IAM service, that is Identity and Access Management. So we are going to continue with that. Okay, so we have completed till here. So we are going to continue from here the essential components of IAM. Let me take few questions before starting. Okay, so just tell me what is the difference between edge location and regional edge caches. You can put in the answer. What is the difference between edge location and regional edge caches? Regional edge caches stores which kind of a data, while edge location stores which kind of a data. Very good. Ashwani, edge location stores temporary data. I'm asking the difference between edge location and regional edge caches. Both stores temporary data only. That is not the difference. Yeah, let me tell you the answer. I got many correct answers. So the main difference is edge location stores the frequently accessed data, and when that data becomes infrequently accessed, that moves from edge location to regional edge caches. That means regional edge cache stores the infrequently accessed data. Okay, so let me ask you one question. Okay, so I want to patch my EC2. I'm planning to patch a EC2 machine. Okay, so will AWS is going to patch a EC2 machine for me, or it's my responsibility to patch? I have an application. I have an application which is running on a EC2 machine. Okay, which is running on a EC2 machine. I have an application. So patching is required for that application operating system. So it is whose responsibility? Just a minute, guys. Just got an important message from Ethnus. Just replying that. So, guys, it is customer responsibility, Ashwani, because since we are configuring EC2 from our end, it's an IS kind of a service, infrastructure service, where we only have to take care of the patching part. Okay. Okay, let me take another question. So, I've created a MySQL database server using AWS RDS service. So to patch database server, it's whose responsibility? Customer or AWS? Very good. Vijana, it will be AWS responsibility because we all know AWS RDS comes under PaaS service. It is a managed service. Okay, so all this overhead tasks like patching and like other stuff, it will be taken care by AWS only. Okay, so now like you have created a network for your application. You have defined a VPC for your application now, and now you want to configure to configure the security walls inside a VPC, that security firewalls. So it is whose responsibility to configure security firewalls inside a VPC for your application? It is whose responsibility? It is customer responsibility, guys. Since you are creating a VPC, inside that you are going to launch your application, so you only have to set the security group configuration, the rules. Okay, anything else? Okay. So, which service is used to centrally control the AWS resources inside your AWS account? Which AWS service is responsible for controlling and managing the AWS resources inside your AWS account? Inside a particular AWS account, I'm asking. Yeah, the correct answer is IAM, Identity and Access Management Service. AWS organization, Raghuveer, AWS organization, we use it for, like AWS organization, we mainly use it at the organization level where we have to manage multiple accounts. I'm talking about a single AWS account. So all the AWS resources which are the part of a single AWS account, how you can manage and have a control on that using IAM policy. Yeah, we are going to discuss as IAM only, Nitin, don't worry. So today the focus will be on IAM. So I think I've covered all the questions. So let me first to just tell you something about IAM, then we will start. So Nitin, please listen carefully. So IAM is a central service which is used to control AWS resources inside your AWS account. So with the help of IAM, you can create, like IAM users, like you can create the users, you can assign the policies to them, you can assign like you can assign policies to the resources, AWS resources as well. So you can control everything inside your AWS account, and you can create a fine grained policies. What does that mean? Fine grained policies? It means AWS resources means your EC2. EC2 is the AWS resource. Services are the resources. So when I'm telling AWS resources, it means your EC2 service, your S3 service, your VPC, etc., are the different AWS resources. Okay. So it is used to control your AWS resources and user access to your AWS account. Now you got, is it clear now? What is IAM? It is used for security control. Nitin, is it clear? Now we're going to discuss that in detail. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so yesterday I told you what is IAM. Okay, it is used to, like it is a central service which mainly controls your account, which controls each AWS resources in your account, which controls each user access of your account. So now let's check out what are the essential components, or I would say there are 4 essential components or 4 pillars of IAM. The first one is IAM user, the second one is IAM group, the third one is IAM policy, and the fourth one is IAM role. So let's check out the first one, that is IAM user. So a person or application that can authenticate within an AWS account. So IAM user, simply it means a person, a user. Suppose I have an AWS account and you all are working in my company. So I'm going to create IAM users. So IAM users are those who used to access your AWS account. So suppose I have created 47 IAM users. This is a, like each are individual entity which are used to access your AWS account authenticately. So the same, it is the definition, a person or application that can authenticate with an AWS account. So once the authentication is done, since I will be creating, the person who is the root user or who is the admin user can create the IAM users. So a person who is having a root access means, like it is a God mode, I would say. Like they can do anything with the AWS account, inside the AWS account. So whenever, suppose you have created any AWS account, that means you are having a root access. So from there, you can create multiple IAM users, and those users can be created for doing a particular task. That's how, organization has been created using IAM. Then suppose there are 50 people who are working in your, in your company on a single project, then a manager would be having the AWS root access, and we would be creating, suppose, like Nitin got onboarded on my team as a 51st member, then then a manager is going to, or like my team is going to create a AWS IAM user of his user ID, and then he can log into the AWS account using that IAM user. So IAM user is a single entity which have certain kind of a permissions, and those permissions he can use to access AWS resources inside a particular AWS account. Okay, so that's how multiple, you can create multiple IAM users in a single account, and those users can log into your AWS account for completing a particular task. That is a simple IAM user. That is the first pillar. Now let's consider the second pillar, IAM group. A collection of IAM users that are granted identical authorization. Okay. Okay, so what are IAM group? So IAM group is a collection of IAM users which are having same kind of a permissions. So let me give an example. Suppose there are 50 people who are working in for a single project, and all are having different kind of a technology stack. Suppose there are 10 database engineers, there are 10 network engineers, there are 20 developers, there are 5 testers, and there are 5 admins. Okay, so I will just group all those same kind of a technical stack people into a single group, and I'm going to let's suppose for like network engineer people, I'm going to put all those 10 people, 10 IAM user account I'm going to create, and I'm going to attach it inside a single group, and then whatever permissions I'm going to apply on that group, automatically all the 10 users will be inheriting those permissions the same way, like an organizational unit. So IAM group are just like your organizational unit. Okay, so the IAM group, inside the IAM group, we are going to have a collection of IAM users which are having identical authorization. So suppose you have created one policy for network engineer where you want the network services should be access to those IAM users. So it would be a very like tedious and time taking task if suppose I will be attaching the policies to each person. It will take a lot of time. So to reduce that overhead, AWS has created IAM groups, and inside the IAM group you can add n number of users, and whenever you are creating any IAM policy, the permissions you are creating, that policy whenever you are applying to a particular IAM group, then automatically the number of users who are the part of this group will automatically get all the permissions inherited. So in simple way, IAM group is a collection of IAM user. You can consider it like a organizational unit. Now let's come to the third pillar, that is IAM policy. So IAM policies are the documents which are written in JSON format. So JSON is your JavaScript object, your notation. It is a scripting language. JavaScript and object notation. So it is a scripting language. So with the help of that, you are going to write these IAM policies. So these IAM policies will define which resource can be accessed and the level of access to each resource, like same as the service control policy which we are using at AWS organization level. But now these IAM policies we are using inside AWS account. I told you the difference in our, like last module. So these IAM policies are the documents which contains all the permissions, where you are going to write all the permissions in the JSON format. Then you can attach these policies to your IAM group, to your IAM users, so that based on the policies only the users can access your AWS account. So if you will define in a particular policy, in a I will show you how the JSON format looks, how you can create the policy and all. So whenever you are defining, suppose like for this server admins, you are defining that they can only access the EC2 service. So inside the policy, you have to define that, because initially, suppose whenever a new IAM user is created, suppose like just now I'm creating a IAM user for money. So that IAM user will be having zero permissions. There won't be any permission for that IAM user, guys. That will be the zero permission. So you have to attach the permissions in the form of IAM policies. So whenever any new user is created, he is having no kind of a permission. He can't access anything. So you have to attach IAM policies, so that you will define in the IAM policy the permissions that the permissions for accessing the AWS services. So for example, for the server admins, what I've written a policy where all those 5 server admins which are the part of my team can only access EC2 service. So apart from EC2 service, they will not be able to access any other service. Whenever they try to access any server, like any other service apart from EC2, then they are going to get one permission denied error. Okay. So now you understood what is IAM user, IAM group, and IAM policy. Now the fourth pillar is your IAM rule. So useful mechanism to grant a set of permission for making AWS services requests. Actually, IAM rule is a temporary rule. So IAM rule is used to connect your two resources, two AWS resources you can connect. Okay, so the main functionality of IAM rule is to connect two AWS resources, and these are the temporary rules. So let me just give you an example of a rule. Suppose inside a movie, suppose there are some actors. So for each film they are having a different role. So those are the temporary rules. Once they are working in in any film, then they are going to inherit the properties of that particular role, and then they will do the acting. Once the picture is finished, the film is finished, they will work on the next project. Then they will be getting into some another role. So that's why it is a temporary role. So with the help of IAM role, you will be able to connect different AWS sources to each other. That is the use case of IAM role. So IAM role can be applied to both the users and your AWS resources. So we are going to discuss about IAM rule in the in detail in the coming slide. So now you got what are the 4 main essential components or 4 main pillars of IAM, because with these pillars only the IAM has been created, because these are the 4 things which mainly we create using IAM. Like IAM users we create IAM groups and attach users inside the group. Then we create IAM policies to provide the permission to a particular IAM group or an individual IAM user. Then we also create IAM roles so that we can give some temporary kind of access to a person so that they can complete some task, or we can give temporary access to some AWS resources so that they can connect to another AWS resources. Let me give you an example. Suppose I'm running an Instagram application. Okay, so Instagram kind of a social platform. So that application running inside EC2, it is deployed or hosted on the top of EC2, and now from EC2 we have attached one S3 bucket. So whatever videos and photos the end users are going to upload on my Instagram app, so that will come to the application, and internally they are going to be stored inside the S3 storage. So how both things are connected? So both resources are connected through role. So to connect both resources, first we have to create one IAM role, and once you will create one IAM role, then only both different AWS resources can connect and they can communicate with each other. So we will be having a small recorded demo. I'm going to show you, and we will also have one lab will be here in this particular module. So there also we will learn all these concepts, guys, in a like a hands-on. So now you understood what are the 4 pillars Okay, because you may be asked in the exam to define the pillars. Okay, which pillars do which stuff. So these are the four pillars. Okay, let me take few questions which are there. And I'm working from home now. My company provides jump server access. I am a user account. It is a user account. Actually, what happens, like Nathan, definitely they would have given you a separate user. Okay, that jump server access is a that that's a different setup. How you can access to access any application, there are different kind of a setup. You can use it through VPN, you can use it through jump server, but definitely you would be having a single IAM user because they can't give you the root access. So what they would have done for a single account for your project, they would have created multiple users like you, IAM users, for all the people who are working in your project, and each one would be having the same URL. The signing URL would be same for each and everyone. Only you would be having different kind of a username and password. Or suppose if you guys are using like a common username and password, that is a different case. But the correct way is that the admin should always, like these are the IAM admins who are working as an IAM admin. They used to create each an individual account and provide the credentials, like they used to send the credentials over the email to each and every user so that they can have a separate user ID and password. So definitely you would be having a IAM user to access the AWS account. Now another is IAM users comes in which side, AWS or customer. IAM users are the customers, Sonia. These are not AWS guys. We are, suppose you are working in my team. Okay, now I am I am having a root access, but I cannot give I cannot give you the root access because suppose you are a developer, Sonia, you are a AWS developer. Then I want that there is a like funda in IT that we only provide the least privilege access. Suppose if you want to use the services, the AWS services which are the part of development, so I'm going to create a IAM user for your ID, user ID, and then I'm going to only attach a policy which are related to the services which are the part of developer side. So you will be only able to you will be only able to access the developer kind of a services. You won't be able to touch any other services. So IAM users are us, the identity, each one of us. Suppose if you guys are working any project and you want to access the AWS account, you will be getting a IAM user access, not a root or admin access. Until and unless you are a manager or some person who's trying to manage all the resources. So we all are an identical IAM users. Like I am an IAM user. If I'm using an account, you're an IAM user. Chennai is IAM user. Money is IAM user, etc., etc. So it is us only, the customers. Okay. I hope I've answered both questions. Let's move ahead now. So now authenticate as an IAM user to gain access. So when you define an IAM user, you select what type of access the user is permitted to. So whenever I'm going to create an IAM user, I'm going to show you in the demo also, so that it then it will one step will come where it will ask us that what kind of how the IAM user is going to access your AWS account to create the AWS services. So there are two kind of access, guys. The first one is your programmatic access, where if I will provide a programmatic access, then this IAM user will be able they will get a access key ID which you can consider as a username and one secret access key which you can consider as a password. Okay, and this programmatic access is applied to AWS CLI and AWS SDK access. So suppose if I'm creating a I would say Sonia is working as a developer and Nitin is working as a server administrator. So I don't want to give them a console access. So I've just only provided them a programmatic access, and they can access my AWS account using CLI. Like AWS CLI, Nitin can access to AWS CLI using the access key ID and secret access key. In the same way, Sonia is working as a developer, so she can use it in the way of AWS SDK. So programmatic access is only provided when you want to access your AWS environment, AWS platform through CLI and SDK. Now suppose if I want to provide someone like AWS management console access, suppose like Money is there and Money is working as a AWS infra engineer, and for some task he also want AWS management access. So for that, I will be selecting the AWS management control access, and there, he will be getting one authentication URL. A 12-digit account number will be there. which will be with the help of that a URL will be created, and I will be sending that URL to money, and one IAM username and IAM password will be generated. That will be also sent to IAM, that will be also sent to money, and then once money will log into his account, his AWS management, his AWS account through management console, to the management console, then for the first time he can reset his own password. So now you got it. Okay, there are two kinds of access. First one is your programmatic access, which is applied for AWS CLI in SDK, and the second one is your AWS management console access. That is that is used to access AWS through AWS management console. So till now, I have accessed my management console. So you would have seen that I was using my ID and password, though it was not an IAM user, it was my root account. So if enabled, MFA promotes for authentication code. Yesterday I told you what is multi-factor authentication. Second level of security, which is used to provide a additional security to your AWS account. So suppose if MFA is enabled, then apart from username and password, money also should have that MFA code to access your AWS account, because both things are needed, your username and password and MFA code to access your account securely. Okay, so now CLI and SDK, Salate I have already explained, but let me tell you again. So CLI is command line interface. So suppose if you want to access your your AWS account through command line. So what is command line? Suppose like this is a command line. So I will just search command line, this command prompt. So like this, there is a command line. Okay. So if suppose you want to access it from this black screen, which is also known as programmatic access. So you can access. So I will be providing you a programmatic access. Now what is SDK? Software development kits. So these kits are these developers who are working on different IDs, integrated development environment. Suppose they are working on .NET or Java, programs codes. So they can import these SDKs, AWS SDKs. They can import the libraries. They can import all the software development kits inside their ID, and from there they can access the AWS environment as a programmatic access. I hope now it is clear what is CLI and SDK. That is for programmatic access. So that is it clear? Yes or no? Okay, and now, so guys, I've also told you. So till now, whatever I have done the access, it is through AWS Management Console, but I have done it as a root user. But if once I will create the IAM user in the demo, I will show you how to do it through IAM user as well. So this is done. Now let's move ahead. So the main thing you have to remember here, for logging into any IAM user account, there are two types. Either you can log in through programmatic access, or you can log in through AWS Management Console access. And one more thing, if there is any user to whom I want to give both access, I can give it to the user as well, based on the job role, based on the requirement. Because there's the funda, we only have to provide the least access to a particular person. So suppose if today I'm working on on a single service, then I should be getting the access for that particular single service. Tomorrow in my job profile, more services will be added. Then my supervisor or my manager going to add more permissions to my user ID to access those services. Okay. So now let me tell you what is IAM MFA. MFA is a multi-factor authentication. I've already explained you. Let's check out again. So MFA provides increased security. I've told you it is a second level of security. What was the first level of security? Your username and password. Now additionally, to robust the security, I have added MFA on the top of IAM username and password access. So on the second step, you have to provide the MFA code. So in the same thing it is telling here. In addition to username and password, MFA requires multi-factor authentication. Ashwani, multi-factor authentication. So why it is multi-factor authentication? Because in a here we are doing apart from username and password, we are also having one more form of authentication. That's why it is multi-factor authentication. So in addition to username and password, MFA requires a unique authentication code to access services. So how to set up? Whenever you're going to set up any MFA, that time what happens? You have to attach a device which is known as authenticator device. So there are two type of authenticators. One is your hardware authenticator. So there is one company like there are a few companies in the market. I'm not getting the name of the company now. So they used to create these hardware security tokens. So I think who all are working in IT companies to log into their like companies what do you say portals, they use these RSA tokens. Yeah, that we correct. These RSA tokens. So RSA token is one of the hardware example, and software example is Google authenticators. So you have to attach one authenticator to your AWS MFA, and once it is attached successfully, then you're going to get one code, and that code is not permanent. It is a temporary code. It is going to recycle like every 1 minute or 30 seconds based on the device. So it is going to recycle. So suppose if somebody has your code, then he or she not be able to log in, because that code is going to be recycled. So till the time that code is available on the device on your screen, or like on your like as a soft token or a hard token, that time you have to put that MFA code. Then only you will be able to log in. Okay, so first you're going to provide your username and password. Then you will click on sign in. Then you will move. Then you will be navigated to the MFA screen. There you have to. There it will ask for the MFA security code. Then suppose if you have a hardware token like RSA, then yeah, the company name is EMC Square. EMC Square is one of the security company, okay, that build these RSA tokens, and these are very very secure tokens, and like they challenge if somebody is going to like break the security of this particular token, they're going to give a job and some reward prize. That's why like they are so much confident with their device, and that's why it is highly used in the IT industry. Okay, so if you are having that hardware token, then you will see one like one 6 digit or 8 digit numeric number will be there, which will be displaying on your that device, that you can write it on your screen, and you will be able to click. Then you will click on sign in, and you'll be able to log into your AWS account securely. If suppose you are having a soft token, so suppose you have like you can do one thing. You can download a Google Authenticator application in your mobile, and from there you can set up the soft token. So once that's the you will be navigated to the MFA page, then you can open your mobile, open that application. You will be getting a refresh code that you can put it, and you can log it. That is the functionality. So MFA is a multi-factor authentication, which is providing a additional security to your AWS account. And like we use this MFA very heavily inside IT industry. So suppose you are working on any for any client, and you want to access the client environment, then either you can do it through VPN. Okay, either you can do it through VPN, or they were going to provide you this a token, so that with the help of token one can access. So it is a authorized. So because since they have given a token to you, that token is sent to your ID. So that means they know that our authenticated person is going to access their environment. That's why if nobody is having that token, then he or she won't be able to access. If you lost that hardware token, you need to request for another one, because without that you won't be able to access that client environment. Okay, guys, now you understood what is IMFA, IAM-MFA. Okay. Now authorized, what actions are permitted. So after the user or application is connected to AWS account, what are they allowed to? So let's check out. Okay, let's check out this diagram. Let me explain you this diagram. So these are us. Suppose this is Mani, Sonia, and Ashwini. These are the IAM users, or you can say these are the person who are like under the IAM group, or I have created a temporary IAM role to these users. Anything you can consider. Now like I have suppose for Ashwani, I have written a IAM policy where I have given a full access to IAM instances. Sorry, for EC2 EC2 instances. That means on the EC2 dashboard, on the EC2 service dashboard, like Ashwani has a full access. He can do any kind of a task. For example, he can create the EC2 machines. He can update the EC2 machines. He can stop the EC2 machines. He can restart the EC2 machines. He can also terminate the EC2 machines. So apart from like Ashwani, the other two users are not having this access. So when they are going to access this EC2 instance, like this EC2 instance, what do you say? When they are going to access this EC2 instances, they won't be seeing any instances, and when they are trying to create any instance, they will get a permission denied error, because they don't have that policy attached to their user account. The second thing is, suppose for Mani and Sonia, I have given like I have attached another policy, which is a read-only policy, which is only a read-only policy for S3 bucket. Both these users, Sonia and what is it, Nitin, Sonia and Nitin are having the same technical profile. So I have grouped them into a single IAM group, and then for both I have applied a IAM S3 bucket policy as a read only. So once they will try to access S3 service, they can only see what are the different kind of buckets. S3 buckets are available on the S3 console. They can also check out what are the different kind of files or objects available inside S3 bucket, but they won't be able to create any new S3 bucket because this is a read only policy. If it is a read and write policy, the full access like EC2, then they can do anything on S3 console. But since it is a read only policy, then Nitin and Sonia can only see the list of S3 buckets present in a like for a particular account. They can also check out the objects or files in each bucket. And but if they if but if these guys want to access EC2 instances, they won't be able to do that. Okay. No, that is a different thing. RWX is inside Linux still. I'm talking about the services. EC2 is a service which is used to create virtual machine for Linux also, for Windows also, and for Mac OS also. So it is different thing. For RWX, we used to create for the files inside the Linux. Suppose when you create one Linux server, now I want to give some permission, read or write or executable permission for a single file or directory or for executing a particular script. So you can consider the same inside like a same way, but it is not only applicable for Linux. But yeah, you can consider that these are the different kind of permissions we are giving. Suppose I am an Linux admin, so I will give. Suppose you are working as a Linux server administrator under me, so I can give you the to read and write an executable policy. If someone from outside is trying to access my Linux account, I will only give them the read permission. The same stuff. Almost the things are same, but slightly different. But the basic understanding is same. Yeah. Okay. So, but if you some another question. But if you assign some point to IAM group, then yeah, Smita. So what I have told you for the other two users, Sonia and Nitin, both were under the same group. So whenever I have applied, I have applied this S3 read only policy to a single group which contains Sonia and Nitin. So both will inherit the policy automatically. Okay, don't consider these three are in a single group. For the example, it is there in the diagram. I've told you the first example where there is a single user whom I have applied this upper policy, the full access to EC2 instance. Then he or she can only access the EC2 instances and can do the task. Apart from that, the other two person who are the part of some group, they won't be able to access that because that policy is not applied to their user profile. Okay. What is the difference between EC2 and instance? Okay. Actually, EC2 is a service. Elastic Compute Cloud is a service which is used to create virtual machines. And those virtual machines are known as EC2 instances. Okay, Nitin? EC2 is a service. It is a AWS service known as Elastic Compute Cloud, which is used to create EC2 machines or EC2 instances or EC2 servers. All those three stuffs are same. These are the virtual machines. Okay, cool. Okay, I think I have answered all the things. Yeah, nothing is pending. Let's go ahead, guys. So you understood now how we can create different policies, and with this example, I think you would have got it some kind of idea. If not, then don't worry. We have a demo. There you will understand better. Now let's see what is IAM authorization. Assigning permission by creating IAM policy. So you have created the IAM user, you have created the IAM group, but without attaching any policy, nothing is going to work. How you will differentiate that one person can access certain service and other person can access other service? That will be the part of authorization. And how you are going to authorize that? Using the IAM policy. Okay. So permissions determines which resource and operations are allowed. So what we'll do, we will allow the people to access something, because I told you in starting, whenever you are creating any new IAM user, that user is having zero permissions. He or she cannot do anything in the account because by default everything is denied. Whenever you create a particular user, that user won't be able to use any services until and unless you're going to allow the usage of some services through IAM policy. So by default, for a new IAM user, everything is denied. He can access the account, but he won't be able to run or use any kind of AWS services. So we have to attach IAM policies as a part of authorization, and inside the IAM policy, we're going to write the policies which helps the users to get access to a particular AWS service. Okay. So what we are going to do? So all permissions are implicitly denied by default. I've told you, whenever suppose I have created a new IAM user, so by default everything is implicitly denied. So let me give you an example. Like by default everything is denied. Okay, he cannot use anything. He or she cannot use anything inside AWS platform. Second thing, if something is explicitly denied, it is never allowed. So suppose, let me first tell you what is the difference between implicitly and explicitly. So suppose you are using a Amazon application, like Ashmita and Nitin are using Amazon application. Ashmita is a normal user and Nitin is a Amazon Prime user. So suppose there was some sale was going, Diwali sale is going on, and it is written over there, like implicitly 50% is off on each article. So it is applied to all the users, whether you are Prime or non-Prime users. But then they are writing one more line on their console that there is an explicit extra 5% off for, or like I would say, explicit 10% off for Prime users. So explicitly, when they're defining explicitly, that is defined for some group of people who are having the Prime membership. So implicitly, by default, implicitly means it is applied for the whole audience. And when I'm explicitly defining something, I'm giving up more pressure that I have a extra discount, 10% discount, which is explicitly for Prime users. That means I'm emphasizing on something. I'm emphasizing on my Prime users and I'm giving them an extra discount. I'm defining that particular thing explicitly. Okay. Going out of the implicit and explicitly, I'm defining something for certain people who are my Prime customers. Okay, now you got the difference between, though it is an English terminology, but sometimes people don't understand. So this is the difference between implicit and explicit. Okay, now it is telling by default everything is defined implicitly. So for everyone it is there. Whether I am, you, Salate, Sony, anyone who is a new IAM user, by default implicitly everything is denied. He or she can access the account, but they cannot do any functionality. They cannot create any services, create any server, create any database, nothing they can do. Okay. And now if suppose like I have created one IAM user for Ashmita, and there like I have given her some like she's a developer, and I have given her access to like code pipeline, code commit service, and code repository, different kind of a developer tools. And there I have also written one denied explicitly denied policy also. So those all AWS services which are related to developer, I've already put it under the allow, that he'll be able to access those particular developer tools. But there I've also explicitly defined one denied service where I have written that she cannot access she cannot access EC2 console. So that I've explicitly denied that. So tomorrow, if suppose I'm not defining that explicitly denied also, then she won't be able to access. She won't be able to access EC2. But why I have written explicitly denied? But tomorrow, if she's working in multiple projects, or suppose she got another project and she's working in both projects, and there we are using the same AWS account. Now that AWS admin has given her EC2 permission, then she will get the permission to access my EC2 instances also, because we are in the same AWS account. But since I have written explicitly denied, denied permission inside our policy, that means if that admin is providing is trying to give her a EC2 permission, then too she won't be able to access EC2, because when you are explicitly denying something, it is taking precedence, upper hand over the allow part. If somebody is allowing the same service to be accessed by a user, and that user is attached with multiple policies, and in another policy For the same service, a deny rule has been created, then user won't be able to access that service. That's why explicitly deny, when you're denying anything explicitly, it means it will be never allowed. If somebody is trying to allow it from through other policy also, then too user won't be able to access that service, because explicit deny is taking precedence, or it is having a upper hand as compared to Allah. So if I'm writing anything on a deny side, that is having more impact, more privilege than your this allowed. So will it be permanently? Yeah, it will be permanently denied. Yeah, we don't want to give her the permission to access EC2. If suppose in future, if I want her to get the permission to access the EC2, then I will allow that, or I will remove that condition from my IAM policy. That's it actually. It will be permanently denied. Okay. So now some best practices, follow the principle of least privilege. I've told you. Suppose if in future if you're working as a IAM admin, because there are multiple, security rules are also there in cloud. If you're working as a AWS security consultant, you would dealing with this part also. Okay, so inside that, whenever you are defining any permissions for a particular user, IAM user, then you have to you have to make sure that the mindset should be to only give a least privilege to each user related to their job profile. That's it. Note the scope of IAM services is global. Setting apply all AWS region. So IAM service is a global service. It is not limited to any region. So whenever you are creating any policy, creating any user, so all the things are having a global presence, global impact. So suppose you have created a policy to access EC2 instance, and that policy you have attached to Asmita, then Asmita can access EC2 instance in any region. That's why it is not limited to any region. It is a global service which is applied throughout all the regions throughout the globe. Okay, so it is clear with the example which I have explained you. Let's go ahead, guys. So now, what is IAM policies? Some more details about the policy. So IAM policy is a document that defines permission. I've told you we used to write a document with the help of JSON format, and which contains all the permissions. Enables fine-grained control access. What is the fine-grained control access? The same thing I've told you. Suppose like Ashmita and Nitin are working the same team, and both are server administrators, and Nitin is senior, Ashmita is junior. Just now she has joined the team, and so Nitin is working as a senior engineer, cloud engineer. So I have given him the privilege to have a full control on the EC2 console. But for Ashmita, I have only created a fine-grained access control where she can only see the list of EC2 instances. That's why we can also create a fine-grained access control. Inside the same service also, what kind of a label I have to provide to each user for using a same service, that also I can define. That's why it is controlling the whole AWS platform. It's a central service, guys. Okay. Two types of IAM policies are there. First one is identity-based. Second is your resource-based. Identity-based policies are those which are attached to the IAM entity. Who are the IAM entity? The user, the group, the role. These are the IAM entities. So let's understand first IAM-based policy, then we're going to move to resource-based policy. So look at this. This is the example of IAM-based policy, where there is some IAM policy which is attached to IAM entity. Who are the IAM entity? IAM user or a group of IAM users, and it can be also IAM role. So policy specifies actions that may be performed by the entity, actions that may be performed by the entity. So whatever things, whatever actions that will be performed by the entity will be written inside the allow statement, and whatever actions they cannot perform will be written inside the deny statement. Okay. A single policy can be attached to multiple entities. Yeah, policies are reusable, guys. So suppose if I created one policy today, I can attach to multiple people. Suppose there was there is a single policy which I want to apply to all 50 people, all 50 people who are working in my team. I can attach to everyone, and I can also reuse. Suppose tomorrow if I want to apply to some other group of people, I can reuse that. So you can apply a single policy to multiple entities. What entities? The user, group, and role. A single entity can also have multiple policy. Both are different statements. Okay, so second statement is there. A single entity, like a single entity means like Ashwini. So on Ashwini's IAM user, I can attach multiple policies also. So I can attach one policy for EC2 access. I can also attach another policy for developer tools access like that. So a single policy can be attached to multiple like entities. Like whenever you are having a multiple people, you can attach a single policy to multiple people. Secondly, a single entity, a single user can have multiple policies also attached to their IAM user profile. So suppose for a single entity, I can attach multiple policies also. You understood both sentences, both are different. Okay. Now what are resource based policies which are attached to a resource base? So like resource based policies are limited to few resources. Like we have the S3 bucket and we have the Lambda function. These are the two services, and couple of are there, but these are the two very highlighted services which are having the capability for resource based policies. So resource based policies are the policies that can be created from a particular AWS resource. So when I'm talking about an S3 bucket, so whenever you create S3 bucket, you also have a section to create the resource access policy for S3 bucket. So from that resource level only, you can create the policy, because that resource has that kind of a configuration that you can directly create a policy related to that resource, and that policy will define all the permission for people to access that particular S3 bucket. You got it? Identity policies are applied to the identity, user, group, or role. Resource-based policies are created by users. They are also in the same format. The format is same, JSON, but here resources are having the upper hand. From resources level, you can configure, like you can create the policy. So whenever suppose you are going to create a S3 bucket, so then you will get a configuration where you can also create a policy for this resource. So once you create the policy, suppose we are creating a policy that particular group of people can only access this particular S3 bucket. Okay, then we can define that under the resource-based policy, and that policy will be attached to that particular S3 bucket, and then the defined people who are defined that policy will be able to access the S3 bucket. So it is controlled by resource. But we are going to define that. The admin is going to define that. There is no pre-configuration. The admin is only going to define that, but the difference is that resource-based policies are directly created from the AWS resources. So S3 and IAM have the capability to have the configuration to create the resource-based policies, and these are also written in the same format, the JSON format. Okay. So, and these policies are also known as inline policy. Like there are, there are different type of policies, like AWS managed is there. Then you have the customer managed policy, and we have inline policy. So, what is AWS managed policy? So, whenever you will log into AWS account, so AWS has already created multiple policies for you, which you can use. So, those policies are managed by AWS only. So, you can use those policies for your AWS environment. Second thing, if you want to create some policy from your own, that is known as customer-based policy. So you can write those policies, and those policies you can apply to multiple users. Then third, we have inline policies, which are used with resource-based policies. So for resources, you're going to create an inline policies, so that can only be used by that particular resource, and these are not reusable. Since suppose you are creating a single S3 bucket, and you create a resource-based policy for that particular S3 bucket, then other S3 bucket cannot use that policy. You have to create another policy, another inline policy for that another S3 bucket. That's why it is non-reusable. Apart from that, the customer AWS managed and customer managed policies are reusable. Let me just write it down. Okay, I think it is there in another slides. Let me just. So there are three type of policies are there: AWS managed policy. Then you have customer managed, and you have inline. So this customer and this AWS managed, you can reuse those policies, but inline is not reusable, and I've given you the example also. I think it is there in next slide, but I've explained you here only. Okay. Now this is the architecture. Okay, how the policies are created. Okay, guys. So this is the architecture. So let's understand this. So this is the version. This is the standard version. So first you have to this is the JSON format. So JSON format contains all your curly braces and like your like double quotes. So that's how you should write your policies. So inside this, first of all, you have to define the version. So whenever you create the policy, automatically this version will be here. This is a default version, which is there, so you don't have to change that. This is going to impact that. Now the main things comes under the statement. So under the statement part, you're going to define the permission. So the first one is effect. I've told you there are two kind of effects: allow or deny. So here we are explicitly allowing it. Okay. Yeah, it's like a program money. It's like a script. You can consider it as a program, but I will tell you specifically it is like a script. Okay. So I've told you there are two kind of effects: explicitly allow and explicitly deny. Since by default nothing is allowed, so first we have to explicitly allow. So in this policy, this is the main part effect where you're going to use two terms: allow or deny. So here for the here they have written allowed policy, and under the action you have to define the service where this allow effect will be applied. So under the action you have to define. So here in the policy they are defining that for two services this policy is going to run. First of all, for DynamoDB. So DynamoDB start, that means all the tasks of DynamoDB, like creating a DynamoDB, updating a DynamoDB, deleting a DynamoDB table. Star is a wild card. Star is a wild card. So star means all the actions. So under this, for this particular service, all actions are allowed. Same way for this S3 bucket, it is like S3 is a service. With the help of it, you used to create the S3 buckets. For this S3 services, this is a wildcard star. So all the actions are allowed. This comes under action. So this allow is going to be applied on all the DynamoDB service tasks and all your S3 service tasks. Now under the resources. So the resources means the resources which you have created. Since under the action we are defining only the service which are allowed to have like which are the part of allow effect. Now under the resources we have to define the resources which we have created. So for example, like these resources are having one Amazon resource number. Like we are there. So suppose if I want to call, if I want to authenticate money, then definitely I will ask him to provide his passport or his Aadhaar card. Same way, if somebody will ask me what is my identity, okay, then I will show them my Aadhaar card like that. Same way, all Amazon resources, which whatever you are going to create resources means AWS resources that are having their ARN number. AWS resource number. So they have an identical resource number. So that is their identity. So we use ARN number over here. So whenever you create any resources, an automatic ARN number will be generated. And I will show you for some services, okay, when we are going to work on the labs. So like that, one ARN will be created, guys. And this is the ARN number. So there is one Dynamo table, like that, with the DynamoDB service, we used to create DynamoDB tables. So for this table, the name of the resource is table name. This is the name of the resource, table name. And this is the ARN. This is the address of this particular table name. So it is a huge, it contains your region, the account, your account number, multiple parameters are there. These are all the parameters. This is how the ARN is created. Okay. So the name of the table where the allocation is there is table name. So for this DynamoDB table name, a user can do all the tasks which are defined on the which are in the criteria of DynamoDB. For example, they can add new items inside this table name. They can create, they can delete this table. So like that, all the actions they can do for this particular resource. Likewise, for this S3 bucket, which is known as bucket name, and for all the objects, bucket name -star means there is one bucket name. Consider the bucket as a folder. Inside that folder, I have created subfolders, or I have rightly uploaded the files. Suppose there are 50 files and 3 subfolders. So if I will put bucket name /star, that means this policy is applied to the bucket as well as all the objects and all the subfolders inside this bucket. You understood? So for that we need the ARN for that. Okay. So this is the allow policy where it is allowing all the actions related to these two services, DynamoDB and S3, and on which resources. Table name is the DynamoDB resource and bucket name and the objects of bucket name as an S3 service resource. Okay. So this is your allow policy. Now let's check out the deny policy, guys. So till now I told you the allow. Now suppose here they have written one deny policy also inside the same policy document. So where the effect is deny. There are only two types of effect, allow and deny. Apart from that there is no effect, guys. Then what is the action? Here they're telling the action will be applied on the same DynamoDB and S3. DynamoDB and S3, and it is also having the wildcard. So action is applied on both a DynamoDB service and S3 for all their subtasks, for all the tasks for these services. Now it is telling explicitly deny. Sir, break please. Okay. Money. Let's complete this. Okay, I don't want to break the momentum. Let's complete this page, then we are going to go for a break. Okay, just complete this. Okay. So let's understand this deny. Okay, then we are going to go for a break. So it is telling explicitly deny ensures that the user cannot use any other AWS action or resources other than the table those bucket. So what they are telling under this, okay, they have defined one deny where they are telling the action is same DynamoDB and S3. Now here they can also use not resource attribute. Here you are using attribute resource, and here they are telling not resource. So these resources will be not included. So apart from these resources, users cannot access anything because there is explicitly deny. Under the deny, the action is same DynamoDB and S3, and the resources are also same. Look at this; it is same table name and bucket name is the name of the bucket name is the name of the S3 bucket, and table name is the name of the DynamoDB table. So they are telling that excluding these resources, a user cannot access anything because it is explicitly denied. Understood? And an explicitly denied statement takes precedence or upper hand over an allow statement. Okay, now you got this. Can we restrict a user create a service like DynamoDB? Yes, like inside a single region. No, we cannot. IAM is a global service. IAM is a global service, Durga. So we cannot restrict that. Okay. So now you understood this policy, guys. The allow and deny. In the deny, like you are not understanding SLRT, what they are telling. This is just an example, okay. Maybe you would be not writing the deny only. Just an example. What they are telling. They are not restricting for the same service. They are telling not resources. Not resources means excluding these resources. Look at this. Here they have defined the resources. On these resources, this allow action will be applied. Now they have defined one denied effect, but it is not implied towards these resources because it is excluding these resources. It is written under attribute, not resources. So the resources means the DynamoDB table name, DynamoDB table, and the bucket name S3 bucket. Apart from that, excluding these resources because these are not resources. Whenever you define the resources, means on these resources only the action will be taken. But when you're defining something in not resources, that means action will be taken on other resources apart from these. These will be excluded, except these resources. Yeah. So look at this. So they are telling except these two resources, they cannot access anything. Yeah. So there are two different examples of how to allow and deny. Yeah, simple. The two examples. The first one is allow, and same thing. Here they are mentioning explicitly deny. So I've told you when you are mentioning explicitly deny, then if suppose some other policy is is attached to this particular user, where this particular policy is attached, then too he won't be able to access anything else apart from this table name DynamoDB and SC DynamoDB because the effect is deny. That's they want to tell you the power of deny. So this policy is supposed attached to you only, Salate. Now tomorrow you want to work on VPC, and I am a network administrator. I have written a policy for you to give you access. I have attached to your user profile. Then too you won't be able to access that VPC service because here they have defined the deny effect where these two resources are excluded. Apart from that, nothing you can access. So first of all, the network administrator has to check with this policy creator so that they can modify the policy for you or like that. Okay. Conclusion is that user can access DynamoDB and S3. That's it. Only this table name for DynamoDB and bucket name S3 bucket. That is a conclusion. Why you are not understanding? This is not resource. Not resource means this deny policy will be implemented to other resources, explicitly, apart from these, which are defined under this not resources. What is defined under not resources? A DynamoDB table with the name of the table name and S3 with the name of bucket name. Okay, Nathan. So apart from this, users cannot access anything. Both things are same only. This is the allow example. This is the deny example. Here they are just like denying the other access to other resources apart from these, because these are the part of not resource attribute. Listen, is it clear? So the solution is, the conclusion is, user can access only the DynamoDB table and S3 bucket name. Yeah. Okay, guys, let's go for break. And once we are back, we are going to discuss to the resource-based policies. Let's go for 5 minutes break, and we're going to come back after break. Thank you. So welcome back, guys. So Sonia was asking me what is this programming language. Actually, Sonia, it is a JSON format, which is a structuring language which is used to exchange the data between the application and the like and your server. So it is a JSON format. JavaScript, notation. It is a format in which you are going to exchange the data. So it's a scripting. I think it's kind of a scripting part, a structuring language. Okay. So I think any other question is just left. I think no, they're allowing or denying the same service. Okay. Okay, guys. So I'm not audible. Hey, like others can hear me? Okay. Hey, Asha, can you just reconnect because for others I'm audible. Please reconnect. Okay. Okay, guys. So now let's understand what is resource-based policy. So identity-based policies are attached to user, group, and role. Resource-based policies are attached to a resource. I've told you S3 and Lambda have the like a configuration where you can where you can write a policy from the resource level only. So it is attached to a resource only. From there you can control the access. Okay, because and these resource policies are not attached to a user group or role because these are created on that particular service platform only. That's why it is attached to that particular resource. The characteristics of resource-based policies are specify who has access to the resource and what actions can perform on it. Let me take an example of an S3 bucket. I have created one S3 bucket where I have written one S3 bucket resource-based policy. Inside that, I have provided access for Ashwani and Nitin. Apart from that, nobody can access that particular bucket. So tomorrow, if Sonia wants to access that particular bucket, she cannot access that. Simple. The policies are inline only, not managed. I told you these are inline policies. Inline policies are created by customer, and these are not managed. What are the managed policies? The AWS, which are created by AWS, so that they can only manage those. They can be reusable. But since inline policies are created by customer and these comes under non-managed, that means they cannot be reused. These are not managed policies. Resource-based policies are supported only by some AWS services. I've told you only some services have that kind of a configuration. I've given you the two examples, S3 and Lambda, which are the popular services. Let me now explain you with the help of this example. So inside our AWS account, suppose if I created one, one identity-based policy. So I told you identity-based policy are applied to user, group of users, and IAM roles. So there was one user known as major money. Yes, we will do money. We will do this. Our lab is there for these things. Okay. So guys, there's a user known as Mary Major. So when I will attach this identity-based policy to this particular, IAM user, then what are things he can access? Because this policy grants list read object to a photo bucket. So there is one photo bucket. So this policy has written a permission. So this policy contains a permission where a user to whom this policy is attached, it will grant the permission so that they can list the photo bucket inside the S3 service platform, and they can also read all the objects. Objects are the files. The files which you upload on S3 bucket are known as objects. Single file is an object. It can be a photo, like a PNG file, a JPG file, a PDF file, a Word file. All are individual objects. So what is this policy telling? That Mary Major, this is an identity-based policy which is allowing a permission to Mary Major, which is an IAM user, to access photo bucket, which is a S3 bucket, and all the objects inside that particular bucket. This is an example of identity-based policy. Now let's move to resource-based policy. So I told you resource-based policy you can create from the resource configuration. Okay, just a minute, guys. Getting a call. Okay, so under the resource-based policy, this will be created as an inline policy for that particular S3 bucket. So when this policy will be apply to a particular S3 bucket, then what this policy will grant? It will grant user Mary measure to list and read object. So now where we are defining all these permissions inside the S3 bucket resource based policy. So inside the S3 bucket I have written that for this user can access my bucket, this bucket, and he can also see all the objects inside this bucket. So now the two way to control. We are doing the same task. We are trying to do the same task but in two different formats. The first one is we have created one IAM identity based policy. From there, we are able to get the access for a particular photo bucket to read out all the objects. The same way, we can also do the same task using the resource based policy. Since S3 has the like S3 supports resource based policy, that's why we can create one policy. There also we can define the user IAM user Mary Major can access this particular bucket. So these are the two different policies. No, Sonia, Mary Major is the name of a user. It can be like I can replace Mary Major with your name also, Sonia. It is an IAM user where they have given a like a demo name as a Mary Major. Okay, it's a name of an IAM user. Like let's consider this IAM user as Bhaskar. So I can give you the like that. It is Mary Major. It is just a name of an IAM user. Okay. It is not a service. It's a name of a user. IAM user. Mary Major. Okay. They have taken an example. IAM user. And this Mary Major is the name of this particular IAM user. Okay. So guys, this is the difference between identity-based policy and resource-based policies. Let's move ahead now. So next one is how the IAM permission works. How the IAM permission works. So S3 bucket inline policy can be applied in another S3 bucket. No, Nitin. I've told you inline policy are unmanaged policy. They cannot be reused. That inline policy which you have created for that photo bucket cannot be applied to other S3 bucket. For other S3 bucket, suppose the other S3 bucket name is videos. For that video bucket, you have to create a different inline policy. That is your resource-based policy. This policy. Okay. Okay, cool. So guys, let's move ahead. Now, see how this permission works. So suppose, like there is some user, like Nathan is here, and he's trying to access some, suppose like EC2 service. So first of all, is the permission explicitly denied? So suppose some policy is attached to Nathan's profile, and there we have given the policy to allow EC2 access. So first, like how this permission are applied. First, is going to check whether any explicitly denied is written in that policy, because we all know denied takes a precedence over the allow. So if something is explicitly denied, then yes, if suppose inside this policy I have written explicitly denied to access, that we cannot access any other resources apart from EC2. If it is written there, then he will be denied to access any other resource apart from EC2. Okay. So suppose if it is, so now it is telling is the permission explicitly denied. If it is yes, if it is explicitly denied, then he cannot access anything. Now suppose if I have not written any explicitly denied, permission inside this policy which I have attached to Nitin. So now let's check the other case. If that explicitly denied is not written, the permission is not written, then it will check is the permission explicitly allowed, because we all know a single new IAM user cannot do anything. We have to attach some policy so that he can access some services. So the first part we have checked, it will check for explicitly denied. If something is explicitly denied, then he won't be able to access anything. Now suppose nothing is explicitly denied for Nathan's IAM user. So now it will move to the second phase, where it's going to check is the permission is explicitly allowed. Yes, I have created one policy where I'm explicitly allowing Nathan to access the EC2 service. It is going to check that under the allow statement, and if it is yes, then it is going to allow Nathan to access EC2 service. If suppose I have not attached any policy to Nathan profile, that means he is not having explicitly denied and is not also having anything like explicitly allowed, then implicitly everything will be denied. By default, everything will be denied. And because an IAM user with no policy attached cannot perform any task. That's what it is telling. If nothing is define no policy is attached to any particular user, that means he cannot do anything. It is implicitly denied. I hope you understood how the policy works. First, it is going to check for explicitly denied because that is the upper hand, that is having the more power. So if something is explicitly denied, that will be denied for his user account. If there is nothing explicitly denied, it is going to check the allow statement. If something is allowed to access, then user can access that. If nothing is written in the allow also, that means no policy is attached, then he or she won't be able to he or she won't be able to access anything on the portal. Okay, so I hope you understood what is the explicit and Nathan. Nathan, I think you're not listening to me. I've already explained you what is explicit and implicit with the help of the amazing example. Implicit is applied to everything. I've given an example of that I'm using prime and non-prime members. If you remember, I think maybe few minutes back, where suppose if I'm telling it is like you are a prime member and I am a non-prime member, and there is some sale is going on, and we are giving a 50% discount to all. So that is implicitly allowed, applied to both, to the prime member, to you, and to me, the non-prime member. Now suppose you are a prime member, so explicitly I have defined that there will be 10% extra off for prime members. That means I am defining explicitly. Okay, there is a meaning of explicitly. I am defining something explicitly that this 10% will be given to prime members. Okay, so there is a meaning of explicit. Implicit is for all default. Explicit, I am just defining, like on the top of implicit, that some extra discount is there for not for the prime members. That will be only applicable to Nitin's profile because he's a prime member. Okay, I hope it is clear. Nitin, is it clear? Okay, let's go. Oh, you guys, you understood this part? Okay, let's move ahead now. Now let's check what is IAM groups. So an IAM group is a collection of IAM users. You already know this. So look at this example. For this AWS account, suppose I created 3 IAM groups. One is admins, other one is developers, and third one is testers. So under admins, these are the IAM users: Carlos, Salzer, Marcia, Oliveria. So these are the people who are the part of this admin group. And Lee Juan, Mary Major, Richard Roy are the part of developers group. And these are the 3 people: Zan, John, and Lee are the part of tester group. So these are the group, and like these are the IAM group, and inside this, these are the IAM users. So IAM group is a collection of IAM users. A group is used to grant the same permission to multiple users. I've told you, whenever I'm going to attach any policy at a group level, then automatically all the number of IAM users, the part of the same group, will inherit those policies automatically. I don't have to attach those policies individually to each user. I can only attach it to a group, and automatically each user is going to inherit those permissions or policies. So permissions granted by attaching IAM policy or policies to the policies to the group. So to a single group, you can attach multiple IAM policies as well. A user can belongs to multiple groups. So look at this. Lee Juan is here. He is also the part of developer group, and he is also the part of tester group. So a single IAM user can also be the part of multiple groups, guys. Okay, multiple IAM groups. So whatever policies are written on both groups will be applied to Zian. So for example, suppose Zian is Zian also knows the application development and testing. So whatever services which are the part of the development testing, he is going to have the access for both, because all those things are written inside the individual policies which are attached to IAM developer group as well as tester group. Okay, there is no default group. So suppose you have logged into your you have created your AWS account recently, and in that, once you will check out the IAM section, you will find no group is present. So there is no default group. You have to create the groups. There is no concept of default group which is created by Amazon. Once you want to use this service, you can create group and you can add the users. Groups cannot be nested. So you cannot add one group inside another group. Like we have OUs. OUs were nested, but here groups are not nested. You cannot create. Like suppose there is a IAM group developer. Inside this, I can only add IAM users. I cannot add another tester group over here inside this developer. So groups cannot be nested, guys. Okay, so now you understood IAM groups with the help of this example. Let's move ahead and check what is IAM rules. So IAM rule is an IAM identity with specific permission. So I've told you the main functionality of IAM rules. IAM rules is used to connect different resources inside AWS account, different AWS resources. So similar to an IAM user, you can say it is a bit similar to IAM user only. So role means, like you are giving some temporary role to some person. So suppose, let me give you an example. You know, like I have attached, like Nitin is working as a, server admin, but he also knows some network part. So, I've created one IAM rule for Nitin, where I have given him some temporary permissions, so that he can, yeah, so that he can, what is it, like he can also access network components, like network services of AWS. He is already having one policy of, EC2 access, but I have just added one temporary role, because roles are temporary. So I've created one role, I am role, and I've attached to Nitin, and so that he can access the network services and he can complete his task. And once the task is completed from the end, I can just remove this role from Nitin's profile. It is a temporary role. That is the meaning of role. Yeah, to connect different AWS resources, Ashwani. Okay, so you understood. Now let's check out some more things. Different, though it is similar to IAM user, but not exact similar. Some differences are also there. Not uniquely associated with one person. Second, intended to be assumable by a person, application, or service. So first of all, like it is not uniquely associated with like one person. You can reuse these roles. Suppose I created one role, I can attach it to multiple people. So I am user is a unique identity, but roles are temporary. It can be added to multiple users. Suppose I want to add to Sonia, like I want to add one IAM role, the same IAM role which I created. I can also add to Sonia. I can also add to Nitin, because those are not uniquely associated. But IAM users are unique identity. Nitin is a single IAM user. He is a unique. Sonia is another IAM user, and she is a unique identity. Okay, that's a difference. Second, with roles, it is all about assumptions. You are assuming. Suppose Nitin is a server administrator, but when I've attached this network role to his profile, then he's assuming himself as a network administrator also, because he can access those network services, he can perform his task. Once his task is performed, I can detach this role from Nitin's profile also, and then Nitin won't be able to access those services again. Okay, you understood? Rules provide temporary security credentials. So these are the temporary security credentials. So whenever you're trying to access, okay, whenever suppose you are trying to access one S3 bucket from EC2 using the IAM role. So I created one IAM role for EC2 machine, so that EC2 machine can access my S3 bucket. So there, okay, I have like I have created a temporary credentials with roles. They create a temporary credentials, so that like for communication internally, we need some credentials. So the credentials are, you don't have to define any credentials, guys. That will be created automatically, so that the communication will be between two services. So they provide a temporary security credentials. So at the time of communication, those temporary security credentials will be used for connecting both AWS resources, so that they can communicate with each other. IAM rules are very good for security. Suppose you are not using IAM role and you want to connect your EC2 machine to your S3 bucket, then you have to save your credentials on your EC2 machine. That is very, very dangerous, very, very risky. If tomorrow somebody is trying to access your, because I told you, we need some security credentials for the authentication. Since why it is dangerous, if tomorrow some hacker is going to hack your EC2 machine, then they will also hack your credentials, and with your credentials they can do all the things for which you have the permission. That's why we use roles, because these roles provide a temporary security credentials. Because using role, you don't have to explicitly save your credentials on the EC2 machine, because we are using role, and roles is going to create a temporary credentials at the time of connection, and those credentials are not saved on your EC2 machine, EC2 server or EC2 instance, guys. Okay, you got it now. What is roles? Now, example of how roles are used to delegate access, how they provide access. First of all, used by an IAM user in the same account as a role. So it can be used inside the same account. So suppose you all are working in same account, so I can attach a role to Sonia also. So it works under the same account. Second, used by an AWS service such as EC2 in the same account. I can also, attach these roles not only to the users but also to the AWS resources. So just now I'm giving the example of EC2 and S3 communication. So I can attach this role to EC2 user and like in the same account where the S3 bucket is there. So both resources are in the same account, and now EC2 machine is having a role so that EC2 can communicate with S3 and it can store the data to S3 bucket. They can connect with each other. So it is applied to both users and resources. The third part is used by an IAM user in different AWS account. This is a very good functionality of role. So suppose let me give you an example, and you will understand it. Suppose me and Nitin are working in different projects. Okay, though the client is same, the application is same. Nathan is working on on a project which is supporting component A of that particular application, and I'm working on like any project under the same client which is supporting the component B of the same application. So suppose Nathan is trying to troubleshoot some issue, and his it is kind of a process where the component A data travels to our component B. That is a kind of a structure of the project. Whatever data component application component A generates, that is saved on component B. Now for troubleshooting the issue, suppose Nitin needs some temporary access so that he can access my AWS account, not my our AWS account. I am also IAM user. He's also IAM user, but he's the IAM user of different account, and I am the IAM user of different account. Now suppose Nitin wants to cross check some information by temporary accessing my AWS, to temporarily access the AWS account, a different AWS account. That is only possible through roles. So you can create one role, the cross account role, known as cross account role. So what will happen here? His IAM admin is going to create one cross account role where the permissions will be written, so that he can access another account. He can go beyond his account. He can access another account, and from there he can access the service which is defined in that particular role. And once the task is completed, then role will be detached from his profile. It's a temporary. Okay. No, not time and all. I mean, it is a temporary access, means the temporary security credentials and roles can be reused. They can be attached. They can be removed. That's what they're telling. A temporary role. We are just giving assume. Nitin was not the part of in my AWS account. I am also IAM user. But since with the role, we are giving him power. He can assume. For some time, he can assume himself as a part of my AWS account by getting that role, by getting that power to his profile. So he can access my particular, particular account for some time. And once, his task is completed, then I can detach the role. Then the admin can detach the role. Yeah, who will allow him? IAM will allow him. IAM administrator. There are few security administrators are there who takes care of all this IAM, to creating IAM roles, to adding the user, and to creating the security, other kind of security components. So there are few IAM administrators are there. They are going to create these roles for him, or some account manager who have the access for IAM console. They can connect. They can create those. Okay, Ashwini. Okay, you understood what is IAM roles. Now let's go ahead and check some of the example of IAM role. Ashwini, is it clear? Your question is clear? Ashwini? Okay, cool. So let's check out the scenario. There's an application that runs on EC2. This is the EC2 instance, which needs access to S3 bucket. Same thing, so there is one application, suppose it is an social media application, which want to save the photo and videos to S3 buckets. So to connect to the S3 bucket. So to connect the S3 bucket, we have to create a role. So let's check out the solution. First of all, you have to define an IAM policy that grants access to S3 bucket. So this is the first step. IAM policy that grants to a photo bucket. This is the photo bucket S3 bucket, named as photo. So IAM role. So like all the permissions will be defined inside your like inside your what do you say policies only. So these policies are attached to the roles only. Because how role will know the permission, they will know through policy only. So first you will create the policy, and that policy will attach as the backend of role, then only a role is created. Okay, the second step is attach the policy to a role. So now we have created one IAM policy, so that we are giving permission to EC2 to access S3. Now that policy is attached to a IAM role. And third one is allow the EC2 instance to assume the role. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to attach this IAM role to EC2 machine. That is the third step. And then the application which is running on EC2 will have the permission to access this photo S3 bucket. So permissions you are going to define inside policy only, but that policy will be attached to a role to make it complete, because role also want to know what all permissions are there for a particular role that you're going to define inside the policy itself, and that policy will be attached to a role. Then that role is complete, and then that role you can attach to the EC2 machine, and then EC2 machine is going to have access to S3 bucket. Okay guys, I hope it is clear. This example is very simple example. I hope it is clear. Now you would be understanding what is IAM role and all. Okay, let's take the key takeaways of section 2. It was a very informative, section. Lot of, good concepts were there, which are very useful for if you're working in AWS. So IAM policies are constructed with a JavaScript object notation. I told you it is a JSON format. The format of the policy is JSON, where you're defining the permission. IAM policies can be attached to any IAM entity, user, group, or role. Entities are IAM user, group, and roles. And IAM user provides a way for a person, application, or service to authenticate the AWS. In a simple way, IAM user are us. I am one IAM user, you are one IAM user, other party is one IAM user. They are one individual entity which are having their individual ID and password, a unique entity it is there. Okay. So IAM group, it is a collection of IAM user. So it is simply a way to attach the same policy to multiple users. Definitely, since multiple users are connected to one IAM group, so whatever policy I'm going to define on IAM, that I'm going to attach on IAM group, automatically it will be inherited by multiple users which are the part of the particular IAM group. And apart from IAM policies, we have IAM policies are two types: identity based and resource based. And then what is IAM role? IAM role can have permission policies attached to it. Definitely, we have to attach the permissions to it, and can be used to delegate temporary access to users or application. It is used to provide temporary access, and it is used to connect different AWS resources. That is the main functionality of IAM role. So this was about section 2, which was very informative section. Now let's check out one reported demo. Whatever things we have seen, all the 4 pillars: user, group, role, and policy. Let's check out as a part of recorded demo, guys. Okay, let me run this demo. Please concentrate, guys. Okay, some question is there about I am user and Ethnus can be considered as a group, right? For example, okay, I will tell you. I am user, for each of your account, Canvas account, these are different I am user. Okay, but all will be under a same group. Okay, so you are also having Canvas access, Ashwini is having Canvas access, everybody is having their own Canvas account. That means you're all different I am users. Okay, but on the top end, since for all 50 users, Canvas wants to put the same policies. So that's why they would have grouped you inside one Ethnus account, and they have applied the policy on that account. Okay, you got it, Ethel? Is it clear? The same example which you were talking about, I just explained you the same way. Okay, let's check out, guys. Okay, so here let's check out to set up. So first of all, okay, what this demo is going to tell us. So they are going to configure S3 and DynamoDB role that will be used by EC2. So EC2, they're going to create one IAM role for EC2 to communicate to DynamoDB and S3 service. Let's check out. First, you have to log into EC2. First, you have to log into your AWS management console. then you can either you can search for IAM service, or you can go to the services under security. You will find the IAM service. So just select the IAM. Now you're on IAM dashboard. Look at this. On the left hand side, you will see we have group, user, role, and policies. Okay. So now just click on role so that we can create one role. So now you have to click on create role. So once you will click on create role, you will be navigated to the to this where you have to select the AWS service. So here it is giving multiple options also. If you want to go for another AWS account, actually you can also go for another AWS account. You can select this. For web identity, I will come to this. What is web identity and SAML in the later section of this course. So that kind of a facility is also here. So now we are going to select one service. For which service we have to create the role? For EC2, so that EC2 can connect with DynamoDB and S3. So let's select EC2 over here and click on next. Can you repeat this? Yes, money, this is available. So you want to repeat this again? Oh, Dheeraj asking. So Dheeraj, I'll tell you nothing we have done. Okay, I'll just tell you now. I'm not, I will just explain you what you have done till now, and you can see these videos on your Canvas portal. Okay, it is there. Suppose currently we are in module number 4. So look at this. Here you will find the videos will be there. IAM, this is AWS IAM video is here. You can check out. Okay. So let me just tell you what we have done till now, Dheeraj. So just now we have first you have to log into your don't worry, I'm just explaining you. First you have to log into your AWS account, and then you have to search for IAM service. You can type IAM in the search bar, it will give you IAM. Under that, you have to click on IAM. So now we are creating one IAM role for EC2 service, so that the EC2 is for EC2 service, so that the EC2 instances which were created as a part of EC2 service can access DynamoDB table and S3 bucket. Just an example, you can create any kind of a role depending on your business case. So for that, we have selected one create role. We have selected the role under the navigation bar. Okay, all the options which were there on the dashboard. From there, you have the option like create role. Now we are selecting the service where we have to attach the role. So now I am selecting the service, that is EC2. Sonia, can you hear me? Because others can hear me clearly. If you can't, please reconnect. Okay, so Dheeraj, till now whatever we have done, I have explained you. Okay, so same thing you can check out in these videos by seeing the videos through Canvas. So now we have to set the EC2 service. So now he's selecting the EC2 service here, and then click on next. And here you have to attach a policy. I have told you have to attach a policy for role. Now this EC2 instance needs what access? First of all, this EC2 instance needs access to DynamoDB. So we are going to search for DynamoDB here under the policy. And suppose then first he is attaching S3. So look at this. Now he is attaching S3. Read only access. This is one particular policy he is attaching. He is selecting this. Okay. Apart from that, he also need to attach the DynamoDB. Okay, so he's searching DynamoDB, and now this is one policy. Read only policy. Read only policy means a person who is having access as a read only access can only check the data. They cannot manipulate with the data. Manipulate means they cannot create any new data. They cannot update any new data. They can only see the data. They can only read the data. So that two policies we are attaching here. I'll click on next to review the policy. Now look at this. Now you have to provide the role name. Let him provide some role name. So he's giving role name as my app role. And now look at this. This is a role description which is allowing EC2 instance to call AWS services on his behalf. What all AWS services? S3 read only and DynamoDB read only. Okay. So now this is clear, and now click on create role. Now the role has been created. Now we need to attach this role to EC2 instance. For that we have to go to EC2 service. So it's just creating one EC2 machine. Once we'll go to the compute area, I'm going to tell you how to create the machine. Just check out the steps. So he's selecting one instance type as t2.micro and clicking on configuration. Under the configuration page of EC2, you can find one IAM role. Configuration is there. Then look at this. Once he has clicked on this IAM role, he can see the role which he has just now created, my app role. So you can select this, and once this EC2 instance will be launched, then this my app role will be attached automatically to this EC2 machine. And one more thing, you can also, add the roles to the already created machine. There's no at the time of the creation of any EC2 machine also you can add the role. Apart from that, if there is any machine which is already running, there also you can attach the role. Okay, so this is how you can attach the role to EC2 machine. Okay, so now the role part is clear. So he's going to cancel this because we are not going to do the testing and all. So let's now he's trying to create the IAM group. So we are on the IAM, we are back to the IAM dashboard. So under this dashboard, so now he's going to create IAM group. So he has to select the group part over here. Look at it, he's creating the IAM group. And you have to click on create new group. You have to provide the group name. So he's trying to create NetOps group for networking people, for networking administrator. Now he has to add the policy, attach the policy to the group. So now he's attaching the policy. So let's see what the policy is attaching. He's searching for VPC and he want to give a full VPC access, Amazon VPC, which is a networking service, a full VPC access to NetOps group. So yes, attach that. So now look at this. This is the group name and this is the policy which is attached to the group. So you can do one thing. Either at the time of group creation also you can attach the policy, or after like creating the group, adding the user, after that also you can attach the policy. It depends on you. Both are fine. Okay. So now review these things and click on create group. So it has created one NetOps group. The same way he's going to create another group. No, he's not going to create another group. He's going to add the user. Now he's going to add the user. He's creating one user. User name is Dave. And I was telling you, once we create the user, we will get the option what kind of access we have to provide. Suppose you have to provide the programmatic access or management access. Programmatic access is applied to AWS CLI and SDK. Management console access for AWS management console. Okay, so here he is giving management console access to Dave, and look at this. There are some options like console password. So either an auto-generated password will be generated, or I can also give him the custom password to this particular IAM user. So he's selecting auto generated password, and then finally request password reset. Yes, because once this IAM user is going to send the IAM admin is going to send his credentials to this Dave IAM user. So he's telling once he's going to log in for the first time, then he can create his own password, which he only knows. Now click on next, add the permission. So here you can do one thing. From here also you can attach this user inside the group. From group also you can attach the user. From the group group dashboard. From the user dashboard also you will get the option to attach it under a group. So here we will select the NetOps group. So this they will be the part of NetOps group. So click on next now. We will review the details and we are going to create this user. So once the user is created, now look at this. Now the user is created. So for this user, this is the username Dave, and this is the password, which is an start so that it should be it should not be showed to a particular group of particular administrator. So either you can do one thing, you can download this username and password, and this is a link, guys. I told you this is one link which contains the this is a link from here only. This particular Dave user is going to access the AWS account. So once you will download this CSV file, it will contain this sign-in URL, username and password that you can send it to your send it to Dave via email or any other form, or that you can send an email to Dave so that he can get all the details and he can access AWS account. Okay, so now you can close this. So now till now we have seen three things: how to create the role, how to attach the policies, and how to attach the role to a particular resource. Secondly, we have seen how to create AWS group, IAM group, and how to create IAM users and attach them to IAM group. So now since Dave is a part of NetOps, so Dave is going to have all the permission to access the VPC because we have applied the permission on IAM group. What was the permission? What was the policy? The policy was VPC full access. Now look at this. We are seeing that Dave's user, and look at this. Automatically, this permission is applied. We have not applied individually. This permission is a part of group. That's why it is applied here. Okay, guys. That link is generated automatically for them. Yes, that is automatically generated, buddy. Okay. So look at this. So all the people who are the part of this, AWS account will have the same link. Okay, that account link is same. Only the credentials are different. So what is the problem? You use Facebook. Facebook link is unique for me, for you, for Sony also. But we have our own credentials so that we can create our own profile. Like LinkedIn, the link is unique, LinkedIn.com. But you are having your different LinkedIn account. I'm having my different LinkedIn account. So all the IAM users which will be created from this IAM from this AWS account will have the same link, but username and password will be different. Okay, it is not a anything which is out of the box. The same normal use case it is there. You can consider as a Facebook. Facebook URL is same. Link is same for all global users. Facebook.com. But everybody is having their own credentials so that they can create their own account. Okay, Mani, is it clear? Okay, guys. So, Mani, is it clear for you? Yeah, cool. Okay, so I've told you this user, the permission was automatically assigned to him. Let's go back. Let me show you over. So look at it. This permission was the part of group. And which group he is a part of? He is a part of NetOps group. So the permission, this NetOps this VPC, Amazon VPC full access permission was applied at group level. So it is automatically inherited at dev user also. Okay. So now let's see the final part, that is your policies. You can click on policies to create the policies. So till now you have seen, look at this. These are the Amazon managed policies. These are the created by Amazon AWS and they manage these policies. These are reusable. Okay. So now look at this. You can click on create policy if you want to create your own custom policy. Though you have AWS policy, managed policy, that also you can use, which are provided by AWS. If suppose you want to create some custom policy, which is not available which is not created by AWS, then you can create your own policy using this visual editor. So suppose if like they have given one, extra thing, if suppose you don't know JSON format, then, you can put the details under this visual editor and parallelly it's going to create one JSON policy for you automatically. So this is a visual editor, guys. So look at this. Look at when I'm going to the JSON tab. So look at this. And version it is automatically there. So whatever under the visual editor, whatever effect I'm going to select, whatever resource I'm going to select, it will automatically create a JSON format for that. So if you don't know JSON format also, then too you can create the policy with the help of visual editor. Many policy already created, then we need to select. No, I told you there are multiple policies. If you want to use any AWS managed policy that you can select. If you want to create your own policy, then you can create it with the help of create policy option. And this is the this is the option how to create. You can create either you can write a JSON format or you can use visual editor. You can select the functions and based on that it's going to automatically create a JSON format for that. Okay. So there are different kind of either you can use already created policy which are created by AWS or you can create your own policy also. You have both options available, Money. So if you want to use some policy which is created by AWS, which you think is of my use case, you can directly go and select that policy. If suppose you find you want to create some custom policy which you think is not available from AWS, and then you can write the policy using these steps. Router is AWS. Router is AWS means router is nothing. It is not router Sonia. It is root account. AWS root account. Suppose Sonia, if suppose tomorrow you are going to create your own AWS account, then you will have a root access. And suppose from your account you are creating one IAM user for my profile, for Bhaskar Rajput profile, then I will be considered as an IAM user, and you will be the root user. Okay, Sonia, got it? Is it clear, guys? Okay, so I told you whatever things you're going to write on select on visual editor, it will be automatically transmitted as a JSON format. So this is how you can create. So if you don't know JSON also, then you can use this visual editor. You can select multiple things. So don't worry, all these things will come into play. Okay, we are going to at some point of a course we are going to create our own policy also. There you will learn this functionality as well. Okay, so I think this was the gist of this particular part. Okay, so yeah, we are done. Let's move. Okay, let's see what's the next. Okay, the next section is how to secure a new AWS account. So we're going to start this tomorrow, guys. I'm not going to take it today because it's already only 3 minutes are left. So any sort of questions are welcome. I'll just ping you this thing. Maybe it is useful under the chat for you. Though I think till this point of time you would have understood what are these things. Okay. So any questions you can ask me. I'm giving you one form, that is the feedback form, guys. please use this form to rate my training. Okay. Okay. It's done. Okay, so what is redundancy? Chinna is asking. Redundancy means when you are saving the, let's take an example of data redundancy. So when you are saving multiple copies of a same data, that means you are making your data redundant. You are having multiple data. That means if if they give a single copy of the data is lost, then it won't impact because you have made your data redundant. You have saved that, like you have replicated the data in like multiple copies. So if like any copy is lost also, then too your data will be there. That is the meaning of redundancy. Use it for data redundancy. Is it clear? So Ranjit, if you are absent for 3 days, if it is absent for 3 days in management, may I know what the topics account is and how to use your Access Canvas account? Okay, so I'll just Ranjit, first of all. So in the last 3 days, I think we have completed the module number 3, that is your AWS Global Infra, and 2 sections of AWS Cloud Security, and I think some left off portion, okay, of module number 2 as well. So all those things were covered. So to access your canvas, you would have got one link. You would have got one link, okay, on your registered email ID. You can click on that link and you can create one canvas account. Once you will create the canvas account, you will get this role guide. Under the dashboard, you will find this only this cloud formation course. So you have to click on here and then just select the modules, and here you will be at the modules, all the modules. So from here, I think we have covered till here. Okay, under cloud economics and billing, I've covered few topics, and the rest of the topics I've taken. From there, I've completed this module 3 and some portion of module 4, which we have discussed today. So you have to go through the student guide, which is mentioned here. The student guide is mentioned for each and every course, for each and every this module. You can check out the student guide. You can also check out this material to get the knowledge of all these topics which you were absent. Okay. So okay, estimated fair value shows different price for multiple times for same configuration. No, it won't. It won't. It won't. It won't do like that. I think you are giving some different configuration. That's why it will give you the exact result. It will give you exact result. Price calculator. But the thing is that okay, like you have done this activity, so that means you know how to calculate the estimate and how to select different options. Okay. Now one more question is there. Sir, we need this IAM explanation again seriously. Why? What is the problem? Sorry, IAM. Like you can do one thing. I'll tell you. You go to this. Like I will be. You do one thing today. You revise the concept here. Okay, honey. You come here and you just try to revise the concept using these videos and material. The same material you will find here also under the sprint guide which I am using. You revise the concept tomorrow. How many doubts you have, how many n number doubts you have, I'm going to clear all the doubts. I'm going to clear all the doubts. Okay, so you can do some homework from your end. Once you will start learning this concept, you will be able to connect to my things which I told you. Just revise the concept, check out all the videos also till that time whatever things we have discussed in IAM. Tomorrow you ask me all the question. I will clear all the doubts. It's okay. Okay, when is it clear? You also have to do some efforts from your end. Okay, please revise all the concept. You will get something and tomorrow ask me whatever doubts are there. Okay. So next question, the thing which I have done in video is a geo right to some we can do in CLI. We can do in CLI also. We can do in CLI also. Correct. Yes, Ekal. Any other question is there? When we can use sandbox. Sandbox also you can suppose when you are using this lab, you can only perform the operations which are defined under the lab. Suppose if you want to do some other experiment apart from these labs, then you can use your sandbox. then you can use the sandbox, and there you can do anything. Like you can perform any task, whatever is in your mind. So it will also give you access to AWS account, Ashmita. Money, please, like revise the concept, okay? Go through the videos and student guide, you will understand. And tomorrow, please come back and ask me all the question. I'm going to answer each and everything. Okay? Don't worry. Okay, so I think this clear now and there is no pending question. So I think it's a good time to, you know, close this session. So any further questions if you have, I'll wait for a minute. And sir, if I give the permission, create permission in dev group and say delete and create permission in test, which policy will override for the user? If you are giving a allow permission for both will work. If you are giving a allow permission, then it will not override anything. Only the deny permission is override. Allow permissions are not override. They will work. If suppose in like in one policy you are giving read access permission of S3 bucket, in another policy you are giving deny permission for that same S3 bucket, then that deny permission will be overriding the allow permission. Okay, so that's it. Thank you guys for joining today's session, and we're going to see each other tomorrow. Please revise the concept. I'm going to ask you the questions tomorrow regarding these topics. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye bye.